Good morning. Welcome to Firenock class in our home office. Well, today it's going to be a long day. Hopefully you guys learn enough. The reason I black white is I'm going to draw something up, and most of the presentation is on this, okay? Drop down as much notes as you can. At the finish of this, I'll get you, make sure you get a certificate, and also I'll give you your notes. And then in other words, all the slides will be on a booklet for you.
Oh, great.
But you want to write down as much as you can so you can see the thing better. All right, first of all, you know, this presentation is going to have quite a few segments.
You say there's a notebook with the slides on it?
I'm going to send you one.
Oh, okay.
In other words, when you leave, you're going to have all these slides in the stack. Okay, I didn't have time to print them out, but you'll get that. Okay, those are the major 5 segments. We've got 6 segments we're going to talk about. Firenock itself, which is the how we start a company. We're going to talk about the aeroplane, the aero system. Why the aero system is important. The aero concept system. Those are 2 separate different approaches. The aero system is that without using carbon tube. The aero concept is using carbon tube. And then the aero, which is how our carbon aero behaves and how you use it. And finally, the boat improvement or anything you guys want to talk about. So you figure each segment is about an hour. So this is not going to be a short deal. So prepare to crush a lot of information. Of course, we started our company as Firenock. That's the Lightning system. Well, you guys got to get that map from me. That will show you how it works. Okay? Just our current combination is a little bit more than that. Most people never know how many we got just on the get-go. With whatever we have without going to boat fishing, without going into special condition, there's about 10,000 minimum combinations. If you take it in detail, it's about 17,000. That means just on whatever wall, you can make 17,000 variations of Firenock. So what's the big deal about Firenock? That's where we start a company with. Now you notice, those are our 14 styles. And those are very critical. A lot of people do not understand knocks. And let me just run by you. Knocks are one of the most important part of an arrow. Because knocks are not just knocks. Think about, if you think of a knocks as an arrow, it's same as tires to a car. That's the only thing that connects your boat to your arrow. Which means that if you imagine your car had no tires, what would your car behave? That's pretty much your husband. Now, how do you make sure the knocks, because you notice they're different shape and form, okay? We actually got 36 claims on the Firenock patent alone. And 8 of them claims it's about the knock. This is such a big deal on the knock, and most people don't understand now. At current stage, there's about 32 different size, 32 different needed shape of arrow shaft in the current market. We'll start with, we'll talk about the vertical bow first. Now this is where you need to drop notes. The major vertical bow sizes are your 166, 204, 246, and your 300, and not to mention you've got some weird 235. So technically, your major 5 sizes. But is each size actually one size? Now this is where the trick comes in. Now anybody who sell more than 1 brand of arrow will find out they're nowhere close. Let's start with the most ridiculous, S-knock. What does S-knock stand for?
Standard.
Standard! Well, what is standard?
Anything but.
Okay, let's go down the numbers. Golden is a 246. You may want to write this down. Black Eagle is 245. Eastern and Carbon Express is 244. Carbon Force is 243. Carbon Impact 242. Then you got your 2 oddballs. Whatever you shoot ACC 360 is 240, or ACC 371 is 250. Now, how do you fit that knock, which is one size, into all? We all know gold tip knock don't fit a Carbon Express, and Carbon Express fall out of gold tip, right? Now, inside a Firenock, that's where the magic becomes. Inside a Firenock, there's a compression system built in. Let me go and grab right here. I'll grab my pen. this is where the compression pattern of Firenock come in handy. See, normal knock have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notches. You push it in and that's the end of it. Because the force all come in evenly. Now Firenock's knock, this is how I design it. What does it do? When you compress it, this thing and this thing compresses, there's no force on it. So this knot alone will compress into 243 or 242 minimum all the way to 247 out of 1. So if you are a company, we want to stock an S knot to fit all the arrow you may sell. Now the trick, what happens if you shoot ACC 360? That is a 240,000. So where do you find the extra 2,000 to fit the knot? I designed this cylinder, so the moment you got an ACC 360, you shave this ridges off. Guess what? You got 240,000. So this alone will fit the 240,000 all the way to 246 or 47,000 without doing anything else, just on the S knot alone. Now how many arrows we just covered with that knock?
6 or 7.
Yeah, more than that, because you got different wheel brands. Now what happens if you really, you are like a true turkey hunter, you like the ACC 371? It's 250,000. That's 3,500 more than this knot can handle. How do you do that? If the guys want a lighter knot, there's no way you can fit a light down in the ACC 371. It's 250,000. Now what you do is that, you play with the magic of super glue. You get yourself a bottle of Bondini with a brush. You hold it, you install extra, you call me for extra large O-ring, so you install the fire knot into the ACC 371. Then you brush the inside of that knot with super glue. The super glue. What happens is you build yourself 1,500, about 2,500 of cyanide acrylic. Now you can put the fire knot in. Because the problem with a pro shop is not what you can do, it's what you can do that other people can't. That's where the difference between you and others. Because, well, you can't do this. But that's what I got. That you can't do this, just don't apply. You need to give them solutions. Because the moment you have no solution, they're walking. Now, that is on the 246. Now let's talk about the fun one, which everybody talk about is the G size. That's called the 166. What does 166 mean? G is original come from Eastern. It's a 166 size, which is your number 19 drill bit. What many arrow is 166? The fact is that only one arrow or be 2 is 166. Black Eagle is 1655. 165. And then the VAP is 1655. Did any Eastern's arrow make 166? No! Eastern arrow is not 166, it's 167. Now you know why, if you try to put a Black Eagle knot in the injection, it literally fall off. The funny part is that the Eastern original G knot will fall off of the injection. Because the injection is 167. And the original Eastern, like the Pro Tour, X10, or those arrows, are actually a 166. So Eastern actually have 2 sizes.
The Pierce a 166?
The Pierce a true 166. Now you see what the problem is. Now being so small an arrow, how do you cover it? Same thing, I put this same identical design in it. So our shaft will fit from 165 all the way to 167. Why not? Now let's roll back a little bit. Do you know when a typical, how heavy is an S knot?
Probably 16?
No, the heaviest S knot is actually made by Gold Tip, is 12.
12.
The new Gold Tip micro knot is about 10. The Carbon Express is about 11. The Firenock S knot is 7. The Firenock G knot is 3.8. And the Firenock A knot, right here, which is for the access size, which is your Gold Tip Kinetics, your Eastern access, is 5 for hours. Now people say, wow, 5, there's no way to it. But let me just give you some announcements. The Firenock 8 knot has shoot quite a few elephant at 115-pound pool. I think that should cover it. Let's go back to a little bit about polycarbonate since we stop at this stage, about power and force. You remember the old days when every single knot was made in black, white, blue, green, solid color? And nobody had major problem? You can put the knots 15 years later, put it out, stuck in the arrow, it still works, right? You notice that don't apply to all the new knots? They will crack on you, especially when you shoot it.
It's a different material now, isn't it?
No, it's not the difference in material, it's a difference in ability of the material. The old days, all the polycarbonate is solid color, which means ultraviolet don't pass through it. Second, there's no light need to pass through it, which means the older material with the color coordination, it behaves more like rubber. Have you ever seen translucent rubber before? It doesn't happen, isn't it? So if we order to make plastic translucent, all the molecules are different. It's the same material, but they're translucent. That means they behave more like glass. Now, when a knot behaves like glass, what does that mean? That means you still have the strength, because you saw buildings, everything made of glass. Like when you're at Apple store, you see the steps made of glass.
It's more brittle.
It's not brittle, it cannot be scored. So if you go to a glass step about this thick, you score it with a diamond, and you pump it, it'll crack. So what happens if you shoot a lighter knot through an animal? The chance of scoring is pretty damn high, isn't it? There's bones in it. If your knot ever touched the ground, the first thing you do is that regardless, take the knot out, put a new one in. This is where Firenock shines. Is Firenock computer and knot the same piece? No. That's the reason it's designed. So every time you shoot through an animal, anytime the arrow touches the ground, you pop the knot up and put a new one in. Regardless. That's the safest insurance you have. That's the reason I throw my knot at 5-year time. The moment I made it at 5th year, they go to garbage. Because ultraviolet, that's the reason I put them in dark places. Ultraviolet will make polycarbonate more and more brittle. And polycarbonate is going to totally behave like glass at 4 degrees. -4. So what happens if you shoot an animal, say in summer? Use the same knot in winter. You pull your bow back, it's -5 now. You shot it. That crack just scored, now split the knot. What do you have? You got a dry fire. Now this is where Firenock shines compared to all my competitors. None of them can change the knot.
Changing everything.
Yes. See, because the understanding what polycarbonate behave was needed. Now next thing you notice that. You notice that Firenock knot throw is different? By the way, that's patent. It's called a Shearlock System. You see, this is what 90% of the knot in the world look like. Some of them look like this. Some of them look like this. We're talking a knot like that, okay? Some of them look more like this. But Firenock is, I'll exaggerate it. So, how many, when you fire this arrow, how many times the string touch it on the back? The answer is infinite. You drag it all the way through and it opens. This one will drag on one side. This one will bump 3 times. You've not fall. How many times this will touch? Okay. You do know every single fire knot, there's a notch like this. On every one a knot. You know why? So when you put your knot, you know which way it faces. So all your knot have to be aligned. That's even true to the crossbow knots. So the left and right is critical. Because when you mow a knot, the flow of the plastic, the left and right flow is never the same.
You have.
Hmm?
You have one we can.
Of course.
Well, I'm sure you do. But... So left and a right.
Yes, it's always a left and right on every single arrow.
Does it matter which way as long as they're the same?
Yes. Now
That's this little guy right here.
Right now, also, a lot of people are bow hunters and never learned this. When you are staring, to imagine you are not on a deer, you just missed it. Now you're grabbing a hand, your quiver, and grab an arrow. Your eye is staring at the deer. You want to able to, just like me, I have my quiver right here, poked up. You grab the arrow. Which way is the vein you want? You don't want to take your eyes off that deer. So now you can feel it with your finger and able to pull it up, notch, and shoot. Those are the critical part that most people never thought of.
Every knock has one of these.
Everyone has it. Because you know the left and right flow is never the same. Because when the material go in, it always come from one end. So one end to the other end, the hardness, the diameter value are never the same. Even on a single cavity, single mode. Now, Firenock is the only company that have single cavity, single mode. Do you understand why?
Single cavities?
Single mode. Every one of them come out one at a time.
So that they're the same?
They're identical. Because when you flow, see, imagine this. This is a typical mode. Imagine this, mode 1. You've got fluid coming in. This is your mode. This is your knock, right? So the material come on this end. So this is faster and the mode will flow to here. So this part is always softer compared to this. Now imagine this. You've got a mold that look like this. With pieces.
Flowing from cavity to cavity?
You tell me, the material that flow to this point is the same as flow to this point. If it's not the same, the diameter is not the same, how the hell do you make them the same? I mean, you say, oh, this is less than 1% difference. 1%? You tell a bow hunter about 1%, they will kill for 0.1%. You tell them there's a 1% difference? You know that is 1 point in ASA final. That's between a $15,000 check compared to a 3. That's what you're talking about. For people who don't care about this, they don't need this. They can go to Walmart and get those $3.12. This is different. This is about the top 1, if not top 1%. That's what I'm going after. Those are single cavity, single mode virgin flow. Now see another thing. If you look at the flow of Firenock, see how perfect everything is? If you look at every other company, you got black dots in it, you got bubbles in it. You know why? They're regrind. That means when you finish making this, what happened with this piece, this whole piece with the metal here? They cut it out, grind it, throw it back in the hopper, and you reuse it. We do not. All ours are virgin flow. Yes, our cost is 72 times more than others, comparatively. But look at what you got. This thing is not expensive. If you really concerned about $150 for a knock, you're in the wrong spot.
Right? So which is the right orientation? Which is the right orientation?
I usually, because I grab the arrow like this, I usually put this side, my coffin is facing down, because I shoot coffin down. If you like it, you can put your coffin up. So you just put your knock up. So when you grab your arrow, when you stare at it there, you're able to pull it up and put it on your bow and shoot. So you don't have to look at your arrow, which way is my coffin.
Right, right.
Because now you can
but as
feel
far as the flow, so there's not necessarily a left and a right orientation.
But it's a directional. The left and right are never the same. You can never be.
But I could install this knock all on a dozen. I could install them either left or right.
As long as they're all going the same way.
Correct.
Okay.
Because you don't know. Because some people are favor right and some people are favor left. And even if you shoot the bay with who the shooter, you still have the guy in it. The guy may be favor right or left. So a lot of times, very easy. For some guy, just don't shoot right, turn the knock a little bit and do a minor, call a reverse knock tune or just knock tune first. And a lot of times, with some other brands, the problem is in the knock. Okay, now this unit right down. All the Firenock come with the same identical throat. Our throat is between 0.108 all the way to 0.125. That's our perimeter. Okay? You say that's a very wide range. I agree. It's a ridiculously wide range. But that is not what we need. Now we need to tell the customer what do they need. Because just like right now, you go to a tire company and say, okay, I need tires. What's the first question they ask you? What car you drive? The next thing they ask you what rim you have, right? Would it be okay I give you a Honda Civic tire on your truck? But that's what people are doing right now. What's your string size surfing? How many people know that? Let me give you a hint. Currently in the world, we know, the smallest string in the market That's the range we're dealing with in the current market.
That's the smallest size serving to the largest.
Right. And you expect the nut to fit that. Instead of telling you, it's okay to have a 12-inch rim, a 12-inch tire on a 17-inch rim. Now, so how to rectify this situation? I take a stand on this. I go with the original standard. Now this is what it means. On the 108, this is critical. The 108, with the 108,
Oh shoot.
just leave that. Yep, thanks, lovely. Just leave it on this corner. On the 108, that is the size that's most important size for all the prong target shooter.
For the what?
Prong-based laser tongue target shooters. That is the most important size. Why? Because the prong rest compared to others. Remember, I'm a Shearlock system. When the string is in it, I want to make sure the string is able to swing forward, backward. That means when you hold it, the knot's able to do this. It's not a perfect lock. Why is it critical? Because you shoot a prong rest. A prong rest has zero ability to do anything. So the arrow needs to drop a tiny bit. Otherwise, you will lift the arrow when you pull. That's the reason if you shoot a prong rest, 108. If you shoot target on a drop away, 110. If you shoot it on a tree stand, 110 or 112 to 115. When you're stalking, 125.
When you're stalking?
Yes, because you're holding the arrow, you need all the holding power you can. Because you don't want the arrow to fall off. So it's maximum hold without breaking it. Technically, I personally on our site we do not rep anything more than 115. But for anybody who spoke in stock, 125 it is. Because the guy who throws traditional bow, you need that. Because you fall too easily. Remember, it's critical. The moment it passes the point, it come off. There's no holding. Not like this, that's holding for this space right here. The moment you pass this point, it's gone. That's the difference. That's the reason, just on this two knob that we designed, okay? But just by changing the knob, although there's 3 grain difference, the arrow and the chronograph at 30 yards, you can see 1 to 2 feet per second difference because of clean release. We did that test at Larry's, just by changing the knobs on the same arrow, shoot through the chronograph. It's a consistent, at least 1 to 2 feet per second difference. Because of release. Because see, it lingers. It lingers, it bumps. It let go.
To where once that, as soon as it reaches curve.
Because this is offset. This thing is no longer touching it. The moment you pass the shear, it's gone. This one will drag all the way out. If the plastic is different, it will start doing sideways guidance. Now you actually bumped on it. That's a fun design if you know what I mean. Literally, you got multiple bumps on the knock. So the string is bump left, bump right, and then get out. And then of course this is a long one, so you just literally drag the thing out. One side, you see this side thinner, this side thicker? They actually make that so that you always come on one side. It's a less release. Well, that's not a very good design. Okay, didn't know that much about knock, huh?
Definitely didn't know about the left and the right.
Easton did that years ago with their glue-on knocks. They had those deals, but yeah, not about the flow. I didn't realize that was.
All the details. Remember that the killer is in the details. Now, since now the big deal for all the dealers are the crossbows. What's the big deal about crossbows? How come there's so many knocks? Well, first of all, unfortunately, see in the crossbow world, the unspoken law is supposed to be no arrow size OD exceed 350,000. Well, actually more like 35,000 is what people go for. But let's put it this way, that's the OD, what about the ID? Currently there's 3 ID out there for the carbon arrow, which is the wall of the world, go by 0.300, okay? After 300 size, there's 300 ID, which is your most usual one. Is there an exception to the rule? Always. You've got your Carbon force, 298,000. Your Eastern, 298,000. Now, if somebody want to go out of that space, sure do. Carbon Express, 283 to 285,000. Is there anything weirder? You bet. The Gold Tip Kinetics Pro, Kinetics, Gold Tip Laser 2 Kinetics, or the old, what I call, made by Vapor, is called the, what's the Vapor arrow called? I forgot. That's okay. That arrow shaft is actually one of the arrow shafts I used to make with the Firenock military now. That's the one we used for the original Firenock design to shoot out of Harriers and out of A-10s and helicopters to make instant one-ways. That's how Firenock started. We are a military company. I'm a project manager for that. Original Firenock is shoot out of A-10 or Harriers to make instant one-ways. Or the Firenock can handle 33,000 pounds of range out of 18-gauge shotgun shell, so they can make a instant one-way for the airplane to land. That's what Firenock started. Now you know why our knots are so military-based, because it is. See, that's the reason also why I can even spec you exact quote. The Firenock LED, based on our current HR circuit with our current LED, is visible up to 2 miles in total darkness and 120 yards in broad daylight. Because those are the original needed specs for airplane to land. And we also, the blinking knot is the first knot you shoot on the ground. That's your leading light, and the rest will follow. Now, what's the big deal about all these different throats? And one of them without throats. You learn about the 246, you learn about the 270,000, which is your Gold Tip, which is your old Vapor. Crossfire, that's the arrow. The Crossfire is 270,000. Well, what happened to Eastern? Eastern got a full metal jacket. What size is it? That's 286,000. Which is the same, which means that we are very lucky. We make the Firenock Y. See this Y knot right here? If you're a Gold Tip dealer, this is going to be your friend. Because nobody's going to handle the Crossfire. The Crossfire is going to be a nightmare. Because the inside is 270,000. Now, I'm using this approach. This OD is 285,000. This shell, this circle right here, is 270,000. What happens if you just shave the ridges off the Y knot? What do you got? Bingo! We just got a knot that will fit, isn't it? So that's how you able to fit the Gold Tip Kinetics, Laser 2 Kinetics. That is the way you fit that arrow. There's no other knot that can do that. And if you're a Carbon Express dealer, you don't need to do anything, this will fit it. We also fit the Eastern Full Metal Jacket crossbow. Well, what about the rest of that? Oh, I happen to shoot 2219. What size is it? 2219 is 303. And 2216 is 306. How do we handle those? Oh gosh, isn't that something? From 298 all the way to 306, how many thousands are we talking here? 9,000s. There's no way I can do anything to cover 9,000, isn't it? But usually those are older bows, like your typical Excalibur, your old Barnett, your old Hortons. They come to you, say, I need a lighter knot, I'm too old to see anything, I shoot 280 feet per second with my crossbow. See this two? See this two knot? See the O-rings right there? If you look at my O-ring chart, these two O-ring, I give you two sizes. You put a big one in the front, a thin one a big one in the front, and a thin one in the back. You fit 298. No, you'll fit 300. You put a thin one in the front and thin one in the back. You'll fit 298. A thick one in the front, a thick one in the front, a thin one in the back. You fit 300. You put two thick one, you'll fit a 303. If you need a 306, call me. I will send you the O-rings to fit 2216. Now, why is this two not so special? Those are where we started.
Everything was either flat or half moving
Exactly.
in the beginning. There was.
Yeah, but as crossbow speed progresses, control, safety, consistency become more and more critical. That's the reason you can see from this point, we need to go to the next step now. This is where the next generation, which Firenock own the design patent to. What's so special about these 6 naps? Why is there a D and a D2? The D is original made for Tech 15, which is 0.165. But unfortunately, Tech 15 is based on the old Eastern design, which means the ID is 298,000 compared to 300. But since Tech 15 is no longer made, and so is Tech 15 Aero, what happened? Everybody is using 300 size Aero, so a D2 have to come out to cover the market. That's the reason D1 and D2 are both 165,000, but the difference is that it's 298 compared to 300. Now you can see that when you do crossbow, I cannot use compression too much. Even 1,000 is too much because there's so much power in it. I mean, when you're doing a Sorbet Oculus, you're dealing about 460 feet per second, close to 190 pound kinetic energy. How much error did you got? The margin of error is 0. I'm serious. I accidentally made a mistake last year when I made the UNAC. It was only 1,500 too big. The moment it shot it, it cracked it. I had to go back and redo the mold because somebody screwed up. They didn't follow, they followed my 2008 design instead of my 2015. For some stupid reason, that print got go through. It happens, what can I say? Now, why is there so long and sharp prong? See that, the difference? Because we need to deal with the anti-dry fire of a crossbow. All the newer crossbow, the anti-dry fire is right here, behind the string. If you got a long prong, what does that mean? Your prong is touching the anti-dry fire and the string is right here, while the notch is here. Every time you shoot it, you got mini dry fire. That's the reason this is actually a design pattern of Firenock. Now let me give you all the numbers so you know what's going on. The smallest is 125. That's a C-knock. Who used the C-knock? So far we found the new Raven. All the new Raven strings are 125,000. All the Bowtech are 125,000. Okay? When you go to 135,000, that's the old Raven
R9, R15.
with the original string on the white knock. And then your 145,000 is your Paca and your Scorpet. 155,000 is your all the missions.
What was that?
Mission.
The thousands?
145,000. 155,000 is the mission. And of course 165,000, there's 2 bows still use it, which is Tech 15. Some people would prefer to use it on Excalibur. Answer is don't. Do not use any of this type of knot on Excalibur, except the Vexen. Go with the flat knot.
The flat knot.
Yes,
What about the new Assassin?
same thing. The reason for that is that it may be different. Just so you know, the older Excalibur, the moment you shoot it, if you should put any of this knot in it, you will literally split the shaft in half and cut the string.
That's because of the poundage, correct?
No, because the string rotates so much and drag on the thing. The string actually has so much power, you flip the knot to the point, the knot will crack open the shaft. And then it's split. And of course, on the J knot, which is right here, the J knot. The J knot is for mission, except the 400. The reason for that, because see, imagine this is your bowstring, okay? Theoretically, when you put the power out, the knot's supposed to be followed like this, right? The force supposed to be here. The mission's force is here. So if you shoot a 400 without doing so, you will split the shaft and cut the string within 2 shots. So the J knot will work on every single mission except the 400. With the 400, do not do anything. Now you don't understand why the older mission knot look like this. Because it's actually hitting here, not here. Because on top of that, with the mission, you want to glue this thing in. Because if you don't, you can still do this. You split the knot.
What do we do with the Ravens, with the C-Dock, when a guy wants to pull his arrow out of the crossbow, and the knot stays in?
That is quite normal because the Raven string is not consistent. That's where a lot of the newer customers, they all decided they're going to get a new set of strings.
From,
A gas bow string make a good one, Raven trowel make a good one.
how about the road?
Road should make good. Just tell them they want 122,000 is your spec
On the serving.
on the survey. Because now you got 0.3 for you to play. Because see, when you got a knack, you want to make sure this is what you're able to do.
So we need, we've got some rogue sets there.
Let's see.
Just tell them you want 122,000, the C-Knot will work beautifully.
So it won't stay on. Like if you have the 120, 22 and the guy is at the end of his hunt, he didn't shoot, and he goes to pull that off, the knock will not.
No, it depends on how tight the knot is. Because see, in most cases, if you guys like what I suggested, put a string wax on it, make it really loose, it's lower temperature, it will pull out. That's a fact. But if you look at my C-Knot, you have to really push it on it to lock into the system. That already prevented that. But remember, Raven used to be 134,000. Now it's about 127,000. But after you shot it a little bit, the string instead of this, it look more like this. That's what the string looked like. So what is this? That's about 122,000. So if you got a company like Rogue or like Vapor Trail, when they serve this using my serving jig, this thing is guaranteed to round. In other words, you're looking at this all together. Just give you a hint. One of my customers who got a Raven R15 changed the string, used my knot, jumped 25 feet per second on the Raven. Yes.
Using your serving jig, it's guaranteed to stay round.
Yes. Because the pressure is consistent. Now, since we're at this point, I'll just go a little bit to give you a hint. When you serve, is the pressure even? When you push it down, you've got gravity at your friend. It's faster. You push it up against you, slower. If you use a little John surfing jig like the older surfing jig with a drill, the surfing thing go like this. Remember, look at my hand. It's actually going like this. It's an oval. The string comes out oval with a twist. That's the reason when a treasure article comes to Super Server, when I saw that machine, I know they got half the solution. I provide the other half. Because with mine, now the string is turning. My jig is there. Where did it change the pressure? It do not. When you finish the whole thing with your serving tool, that thing is round. See, most serving tool, like Baita or like a BCY, will give you about 1.5 pound pressure max. Rogue told me they are using 26 pound on it. They actually squeeze the color out of the freaking string.
Yeah, we've noticed that.
You notice when you take the serving out, the thing is white. Now, man, how does this concept come in? This is a very old concept. Look at the Golden Gate. It uses the same thing. The most important piece of steel is to wrap that all the cable, because the moment they put pressure, that thing is guaranteed to be round. That is where you got your power, you got your speed. Because this round and fit this right, how long it lingers? 0. And if it's like this shape, how long it lingered? You never know. See, this is the part that most people always overlook. But now it all come into face surface. Because we are not dealing with crossbow with super high speed. Imagine if there is some, like a guy who ever like carry his bow like this, and he did not change the serving, there is salt and sweat in his hand. Guess what you just deposit here? Mini crystals. What happened to your mini crystal with the string start moving left and right and score the inside of your knot? What you just did? You just scored your knot, didn't you? And you shoot it. In the middle of winter, like, oh, I'm hunt all the way down to -17. Great. Did you change your knot often? You should. Make sense?
Yeah. So the U is no longer for the Raven then.
The U is for the original Raven,
The white knock 135.
which they don't normally use.
Right.
The reason for that, because see, they've noticed that is not ideal, so they go ahead and change a smaller knot. By making a throw smaller, they increase the safety of the arrow.
What that is now the C.
Correct. But now, you notice something very important? Look at the chart. All these are plus or minus 10 on it. What did I not cover? What's left? Idea is nothing. That's the reason I make the U. I know eventually the C will take over, but right now, I don't care a manufacturer what they did. What am I not covering? See, everything is covered. And eventually, I may lower the prong of the D and the Q, make everything the short prong. Because the next generation bow coming in, if they are really well designed, long prong will work, but a lot of them are not. Because a few of them are still using the old Darton design and also the bayonet design. They are not using. Oh, by the way, the bayonet, do not use any of those. It will not work. The more you put in the bayonet, the air will go like this, instead of this. Use the what I call the new Firenock Firenock M for Moonak. Okay, we already talked about this. I happen to reverse the two. Okay, now talk about circuits. You guys know that we Firenock start with computers. Those are actual circuits. We actually make 42 different circuits. There's 42 different computers on that wall behind you. How come you need that many? First of all, let's talk about Firenock circuits. Everybody thought it's just a lighter nut. No, it is not just a lighter nut. There's a lot more involved. There's 50,000 transistors in this die. What's inside here? See that? That's called an integrated IC. It's a VLSI system. That's the wiring to hold the battery. That's the G switch, the silver pieces, and that's the LED. Now we have 3 wiring systems. The old one is called dual lock system. It's no longer in use. We phased out in 2014 altogether. Now the only one you use is EC coil and stack coil. Stack coil you see them in GNAC, and EC coil is in every single size of the Firenock. Well, inside this, my daughter very smartly draw 3 things, which is the 3 main components. We've got a digital timer, we've got a fuzzy logic controller, and we've got a motion sensor, plus a G switch. That's what's inside this integrated circuit. What does that do? I'll give you a flow diagram. Don't try to study it, I'll just explain it. Later when you go home, you want time, just do the flow diagram. The fact is that the Firenock integrated circuit is what keeps the Firenock so reliable. Because it needs no less than 3 components concurrently to function in order for the lighter nut to work. So the moment you shoot a Firenock, the G switch will turn on. Then they set the signal to the fuzzy logic controller. The fuzzy logic controller got it, the first thing you do is that you start the digital timer, which is 6 seconds to play. And then you turn the light on. After the 6-second timer finished, the motion sensor kicked in. Now you understand when you first start the Firenock, no matter what you do, you cannot shut it off. Because the 6-second timer prevents it from shutting off. After that, the 15-degree motion sensor kicked in. So in order to shut off Firenock, you have to hold the arrow motionless, which shut the motion sensor. Waiting for 6 seconds, you shut the digital timer off. The moment you have the G switch, the 3rd gate is open, you shut the light. Now you understand why. But on top of that, there's a ground force system and a static drain system in it. So when you put your battery together, you static in your hand, you drain the static off your hand instead of killing the integrated circuit. And just in case the integrated circuit was damaged, the system will be lit. The only time it will not function is that if you side slam an arrow. That means you 2 arrows into the target, and 1 arrow slap the tail target and let you lift the IC circuit off the circuit board. Then the light's gone. That means the Firenock system, the moment when the battery cannot sustain a logic controller, the ground force system, what called the bypass system, will let the LED lit by itself. Now what is this? Why is this function so critical? See, most lighter nut died simply basically your battery drained out, it died. The Firenock is a digital system. That means it will actually pulse. Our light is actually, our original light it It's a 10,000 cycle with 1,000 lit. That means within 1 second, it lit itself 1,000 times over 10,000. Which means that you only use 1/10 the energy. As the temperature drops, the cycle drops. That's the reason if you put a BR battery with an HR circuit in -3 degrees, you'll live for 366 days. Is that long enough?
So,
Now, the good thing is that if you bought a basic Firenock with our current system with our fresh BR battery, we just got a BR battery 2 days ago. So if the BR battery with an HR circuit, if you shoot an animal on opening day, October 1st, you got a pretty high chance that you will still be lit by Christmas. Now, of course, if you put it in the freezer, you'll be lit next year at -3. That's the beauty of it.
so the cold actually intensifies.
No, you do not. Cold slow down the cycle. Because see, the Firenock is a fuzzy logic computer, which is different from anything else. Let me give you a hint. A lot of people say, oh, there's some other NACs out there who use all the Bluetooth technology and everything. Let me ask you one question. When you get cold, does your cell phone work? It shut off by itself. Because you can no longer sustain 3 volt. You need to function, you need 3 volt plus solid 3 and 0. When they get cold, most of the battery will drop down to 2.4, 2.7 and lower. How do you maintain computer? You don't. It's like when it's really cold, you look at the screen, it's sort of fade in, fade out. When you try to type in calculator, it don't function. Right. So what happens when you need absolute computer to do logic when you have no power? Don't work. That's the reason I put fuzzy logic. That means that I give him a range of working because I only need to do one thing, lit or not lit. All the rest of the computer function are no use. You see, half of the Firenock logic circuit is actually analog. Just like the G-switch. The G-switch is nothing more than a canister with a ball. And a coil spring. But it's precisionally engineered. So that when this thing is moving forward, the inertia of the ball will push down the spring and touch this pin. That's how it activates. But that's simple to say, but you know the Firenock G-switch, if you want to buy one, it's over $110 by itself. Just the G-switch. The Firenock G-switch is rated for 12 million cycles. You'll never touch it. The circuit board is good for about 30,000. That's the reason when people broke the Firenock, they send the circuit board to us. We actually lift the G-switch in our factory and put the old G-switch back in the new circuit board and send it back out. I still haven't used up my 100,000. I haven't used up my millions switch that I built. This switch is hermetic sealed laser weld. This board inside the entire G-switch is 24 karat gold plated. The tip of this is made of platinum. This whole thing is laser weld. That's on a Firenock circuit G-switch. And people say it's just a lighter knock. Sometimes I just say, you have no idea how far this went. You can see this is actually the log, tell you the entire logic of it. We don't have to go too far in it. See, this is show you how the delay activation process is. It's going to be on the website, and I'm going to send it to you guys. So you can, if you're really into it, you show you different conditions. Now, why do I have different colors? See that those are 6 colors of LED. Those are our NACs. By the way, I got the light box for you if you want it. To show people all different colors. Yes. Now you can see with 6 color LED, with all the different NACs. People say, well, NAC and LED are the same color. I say, no. Have you ever tried to put a white light in a tail light inside your red tail light box? You got a white halo and the red box doesn't look right, isn't it? You notice you had to put a red bulb in it to make it look right. So in other words, the bulb and the lens had to work together. Case in point, if you put a blue light with a green LED, you got aqua. You put a green NAC with a blue LED, you got hollow. It's a gold screen. It's a gold screen. That's the difference. So in other words, you put a now most of the color, the people are colorblind, blue on blue. Green on green works reasonably well, but the best color we find out for most people is a yellow knock with a green LED. Don't ask me why. The customer who do this tell me. I give them light box. We bring them out into the open and under the sun. Say, this looks subtle on my eyes. You say, oh, that's the brightest for me. Remember, it's the brightest for the customer. It doesn't matter what you look, because you may be full vision, but they may be off a few colors on their eyes. Now, this is the color scheme. Bright daylight, normal condition, red on red. Red color with red LED, no question asked, that's the king. The moment the sun goes down, when the light is not intense direct, the green color, green knock with a green LED. When there's no light, the best is blue knock with a blue LED. When the white is the worst. As a matter of fact, if you think about how come everybody think white is the best? What are you looking at when you look at white light? You're not looking at the light, you're looking at the reflection of the light. That's the reason when you drive down the highway, you look at people with the headlight on in daytime. You can't barely see it. Come on, think about it. Somebody with an HID headlight driving down the highway with a high beam on. You can't see nothing. But the moment he taps his tail light, you can see it half a mile away. Because our eyes perceive that. And the same people say, well, you know, I want to look for stuff. I go to Africa and so on. The best color is orange on orange. Your peripheral vision and the background color. Remember, this is a light. You look into the light. It's not a color. Remember, when you mix all the light together, you get white. You mix all the color together, you get black. This is a light. So have that perception different first. Now we talk about batteries. Well, why do we have actually 4 batteries? But of course, this is the special order. I'm not sure I can get it. That's the battery go negative 55. Those are expensive. We're talking about 135, 30 bucks you get 3 of them. Because I would include $70 for FedEx. This and dry ice in the box. This battery will boil at 32 degrees. Let me put it this way, how many things work at 55 below?
Not much.
So what are the difference with 3 Firenock battery? Firenock BR battery is a lithium manganese dioxide battery. It's our key battery. It's the brightest. But you have one downside. It don't like heat. At 100 degrees, you kill it. You only have about 1 year shelf life. That means the moment you don't use it, it will die in 1 year. The Firenock BL battery is the long life battery. It's lithium fluoride battery, but it's not fully enclosed. So you got 3-year life with it. The Firenock, of course, these 2 battery, BL is 30% as bright as BL, and BU is 30% as bright as BL. But why do we have a BU battery? Well, BU battery has one very fun special capability. It degrades 0.5% per year. That means theoretically, it takes 200 years to drink the damn thing. But now, why do we, if this is that good, can't we just take it in and out every year? No. The moment you leave the Firenock circuit with the battery, I don't care what battery you use, it will drain it out in 1 year because it's a computer. You need battery, you need power, the fuzzy logic is eating some energy because you're looking for the signal.
So you always want to take your battery out of your...
After the hunting season, take it out. Because you have 2 issues. First of all, the lithium manganese dioxide eventually, at the tip of the battery, you can see white mark, just like all the old batteries. It can corrode your titanium gold-plated wires. Yes, it's titanium gold-plated, you can still corrode it. Because if you put enough acid in it, you'll eat anything. Alright, that's the main reason, and those are the actual specs. So, why is BL battery so wonderful? Because it handles about 100 degrees all the way to 17 below. That will cover pretty much anyone in US. The BL battery is for people penny pinching. You want a battery that is okay good, but you want to get at least 3 out of it. We're only talking $10.95, but I understand. That's the reason I got it. The BU battery is what they call a backup battery. If you use Firenock, you should just get a pack of BU and throw it in your backpack. It should last your lifetime. How come we still have end date on it? Because we guarantee 95% power, so I give you maximum 10 years life in it. After that, I don't know what happened, and don't know what can happen. You can throw it in your backpack, you went through a few super cold, and it ruined the chemistry. So I simply named 10 years on it. That's it. Although I still have some battery that I put on my fishing float from 1976, it still function today. Okay? That tells you how good they are. They are made by Panasonic for me. Those are the original Panasonic BL425. You actually see the word Panasonic on it. They are not cheap. That's the reason they're $15.95 a pack compared to $10.95. Finally, O-rings and end caps. O-rings and end caps are great stuff. Why do we have O-rings and end caps? Because see, when you look at the inside of the arrow shaft, it's carbon, right? How do you glue aluminum to carbon? Not going to happen. And not to mention, remember we talked about the sizes difference? How are you going to put that in? Well, that's the reason I put O-rings on all my end caps. So just in case things happen really badly, I can put a different O-ring on my end caps and able to comply. I don't have to remachine the piece. Now, super glue will glue will glue rubber to carbon very easily, but super glue do not glue well with aluminum into carbon. So the O-ring become the media.
So you're actually gluing the O-ring to the inside of the shaft, and your collar is staying inside.
Correct. So it's actually a suspension system. And you also notice there's a tiny O-ring on the battery. You know why people say, well, do you need that battery? That battery is critical for GNOC because the coil is it. That tiny O-ring is what prevents the coil from touching the center. If it touches it, it drains it. The battery's dead. Because the battery is so small, the battery only has about 5 mA in it. Microampere. It don't take much to drain it. That's the reason you see, just like everybody else, they all got the same battery size. Now it's how much you use the power again. It is not about how much power you got, it's how you use it. Just like you got 1 gallon of fuel. When I first grew up, I remember the Buick whatever, barely give me what, 7-8 miles to the gallon, if that much, if the air conditioner is not on. Now you put that in say in the Prius, you got 60 miles to the gallon. It's the same gallon of fuel, but it's how you use it. So what I do is that we all have the same power. And on top of it, you notice that there's major difference. Everybody who are lighting out and look like this, see how bright it is?
Instead of
doing this. Now the funny thing is that quite a few testers have done with ours. We always lose. Except when people test it the right way. When Peterson Boarding tested in 2012, it tests, you build a black box and test everyone like this. Guess what? We win with flying colors. Because our focus beam LED come out like this with 15 degree like this.
well, it's not like your arrows coming out of the crossbow like this. I mean, why wouldn't you test it from the back? That's what you're seeing when you're behind the bow. I mean,
right, but on top of that, yes, people say if you're going the ground looking for the arrow, it's like this.
not very often. Is it sticking straight up?
Exactly. Now that's the reason we go into our, remember in the circuit part, define have 3 circuits. Do anybody remember what they are? 3 functions with the target system. That means you're lit for 17 seconds and shut itself off, which is the only one that's legal in ASA and IBO. That means that the ASA and IBO in 2012, there is a rule. If the knock stay lit when the next shooter is shooting it, or the knock stay lit when you remove the arrow, your score for that just becomes 0. Because you're disturbing the next shooter.
So
Or
after
out.
After 17 seconds, it's off.
Yep. So our system is so reliable because we don't want anybody using our lighting knock to lose it. Now, the next one you notice is a final hunting circuit, which means that you stay lit. The third one is called a beacon system. Everybody with ground blind crossbow love it. Because the beacon system is a much more advanced technology in it. That means the moment you shot it, the light will stay lit 6 seconds. But instead of using 1,000 megahertz, we're actually using what you call the capacitor loader. In other words, we now bump up the power. In other words, every 2 seconds, imagine this. That is a timeline of 2 seconds. Okay? The system will now actually go 1 second and then 4/5 of a second and blast it at this and close it. So we are using the power of 9/5 of a second into the capacitor and blast this. That's the reason when you use a blinking knock, if you ever shoot a blinking knock into our far field, you will see a halo about 1.5 to 2 meters in radius glowing at you. Why is it critical? Because when you shoot ground blind, your arrow can snake. We know that if you go into grass, just because there's any grass that's life in it, it will actually fiber optics show up on the grass and you can see it. That's the reason we make 3 different systems. because we want a maximum recovery. All my crossbow customer ask me, Dodge, you know, the lighting knot is great. But see, when you got a solar lighting knot, you just put your hand like this. That means if you walk by, if a tree blocked the light, you can't see it. But with the blinking system, you got halo coming up.
So that's just gonna be,
Stay lit for 6 seconds for the whole flight.
but I mean, as far as if we wanted to get those components, that doesn't change the battery, that doesn't change the knock, that's
Nothing.
just the
That's okay.
circuit.
Any weight change?
Nope. The only weight difference is on the battery. The BR is the most heavy, and the BU is the lightest.
We have to use, do you have to use a certain battery for the?
No, they're the same. It's just how long it lasts. How long it lasts and what temperature.
So it'll stay lit for 6 seconds, which is gonna
flight.
be your furthest shot, even if it is 130 yards, and
Mhm.
then it starts blinking after that.
Mm-hmm. Now the blinking circuit is not available for the Access and the G size yet. Nobody asked for it because most people do vertical bow hunting, don't really need ground blind, that kind of deal. But the people who shoot crossbow, expect like Scorpion, your Raven, your Excalibur guy, the more you shot it, that thing fly out so fast and it snake into anything and everything.
Yeah.
That's where the blinking circuit becomes
So
helpful.
that's good for all 300. You've got that already for all.
No, all the way down to the S knot, the Y knot, the V knot, for the Carbon Express, for the Gold Tip Crossfire, they all worked.
It's
Nice,
something
isn't
that
it?
we could really market.
That would set it apart from any other knock.
It would.
Yeah, because you know a lot of people never look at my entire system until they take the class, understand the details. He said, this is as a dealer, let me give you something that nobody even dream of, okay? You got a customer. I mean, now it may not sound like a lot, but you build loyalty to your customer. Say the customer come to you 2 years ago and bought all the Firenock, say for the Scorpion, and just because of Raven craze, he bought the Raven. He can take all the Firenock out. This is the knot out. Take the Q knot out. Put the C knot in. All the arrows shoot in the Raven. So next year, say, no, I really would like to use the sub one. You take all the C knot out. Put the J knot in. Yeah, in sub one. Oh no, I now want Excalibur. Take the J1 out. Put the F knot on. Now you're shooting Excalibur. What have he? In other words, you can build him the most expensive arrow because it's worth it.
It's the most universal. I mean, if he's using the same shaft.
Just think about it. If he go ahead and build him my most expensive arrow, the Arrow Concept 2.0 with the 2 front and back, you're charging him close to, with the broadhead, about $130 for 3 arrows. Okay? How do you justify it? The arrow outlasts you.
Forever. Almost.
Especially with an Arrowbow 3 coming out. You should see what they do.
I mean, as strong as it is, you're not going to necessarily have to worry about breaking one if you
Correct.
use
Yeah,
a
no, first
lighted-
of all, you don't break one. I mean, you're not supposed to shoot groups to start with. And if you break the circuit, remember, all Firenock circuit come with a lifetime unconditional refresh. You know what that means? That means as long as you own the circuit board, you send the circuit board to me with $10. I will give you a brand new circuit board and a knot, unconditional regardless of conditions. With that service also includes side grade. That means you can send me 3 of the GNAX circuits. You say, well, I'm no longer shooting regular bow, I'm shooting crossbow now. You can send me 3 GNAC unworking circuits. You say, I would like to have the QNAC. So I give you 3 new H-size circuit with a QNAC and send it back to you for $25. Unconditional for life. That too extended to the dealer. So if you're a customer to that, on your order, if you send me a circuit, I will do the same thing through you. And on top of that, everything Firenock sell, I mean everything we sell, for all certified trained dealers, anything we sell is unconditional for 30 days. That means it doesn't matter whatever reason, they got 30 days to make up their mind, we will take it back. If you take it back from me, of course, custom built arrow, you cut it, you do it, I mean, that's a different story. But I will take back all the components and give you fresh ones. Because our stuff is that good. If they want to take a chance with me and really decide not, we'll take it back. I mean, of course, I can't control a husband come in and spend $300 nuts and the wife say, cannot handle the credit card. Hey, we'll refund it. We'll refund it, no question asked. It happened multiple times in my life. I got a phone call. Do you know we kids have to eat? I said, I have nothing to do with it, but I will refund you. Good. No, it's not a joke. It happened. And finally, of course, the match weight. Well, this is another thing that people don't understand. Or I will put BB shots in my knock with the hot nail glue to get the same weight right. What people is telling me is that as an arrow, the weight here and the weight here are the same. Are they? Absolutely not. Because if they are the same, why do we care about FOC? Look at the Firenock design, they are all pretty long, isn't it? Especially in G-Knock, we're talking 2 1/4 inch into the arrow. That's the reason on the FOC weight, the Firenock G-Knock weight 12 grains. Because it's this much into the arrow. In another case, in some of the knocks design, you know this entire knock plus a switch is all the way behind the knock. Although the knock may weigh 20 grains, it behaves like 35 grains. Because the battery and all the circuits is way out there behind the knock, past the shaft. So a lot of people are looking at weight. Weight is not weight. Just like a lot of race cars, you notice they put weight in it to balance it. So what happens if you just like an airplane? If you're going to fly an airplane, would you load all the cargo right next to the cockpit and let the airplane fly? The airplane had to fly like this, isn't it? But if you put the weight in the middle, and the airplane will fly very nicely like this. Or if you put all the weight on the back, you're asking for it. Alright, and of course we do have our bow fishing adapter. Those are for the carbon arrow and aluminum arrow. We don't talk much about it, but Firenock used to sponsor all the bow fishing system. By the way, with our bow fishing system, Firenock S-Knot is IPX8 compliant. That means you soak it in 66 feet deep or saltwater for 30 days. You have absolutely zero effect. And of course, all our weights. Now, Firenock weights, again, if you look at the table, the mat, which you guys will take with you, the table, there's only 3 weights. The G-Knot weight, the A-Knot weight, and the S-Knot weight. That's the end of it. And it is exactly the weight distribution of a circuit board plus a battery. So it is not just simply a weight. And you notice all the weight come with extreme short end cap? So if you sell Firenocks, it will be wise. For example, you got a customer come to you. If you buy a dozen arrows, he said, "Want 3 Firenock," you should seriously talk him into getting end caps for all the rest of the 9. Because when he broke that arrow, where is going to find another end cap to put in another arrow? You say, well, the end caps are reusable. Yes, it's 100% reusable. You cut the arrow, you drop the arrow in the acetone, soak it overnight, the end cap will fall out. Because our super glue gel is 100% acetone dissolvable. Just like everything we have is 100% acetone dissolvable, but you're going to use a lot of acetone. The end caps are all machined. They are all 70-75. They are not 60-61. They are 82% strength of stainless. We're using 70-75 aluminum. Most companies use 60-61 or the cheaper stuff. For us, it's either 70-75 or 20-24. That's the only 2 materials we use. Those are true aerospace grade stuff. And then we notice we anodize some of them too. Like red in color. See that? Black in color in some of them, and silver in color for the G-Knock. Finally, this is the specifications. They are on all the tables on our website. When you get that, you can actually look at it. How much is the end cap weight, how much the O-ring weight, and so on, where do you use them, how do you use them? Because as a dealer, that table, that chart I just showed you on the table mat, that's to help you. Because a lot of people really have no idea how, not complicated, how versatile this is. Okay, any questions so far just on knocks?
As far as the C-Knock goes, so that is like the dilemma we've run into as far as the Ravens and whatnot. That's
The string issue.
Raven approved?
No, Raven will never approve anything except what they make.
Okay.
In other words,
But it's Raven spec.
correct.
Okay.
The problem is that this is what happened. Most companies, they don't even adhere their own specifications. Case in point, remember the Eastern injection knock is supposed to be G, it's supposed to be 166. They end up making an injection knock for 167. Now you know why the injection knock exists. Because the G knock fall off of the injection arrow. Because it's 167. You look at Eastern website, it literally say it now, 167. No, they did not want to make new mode.
So really the only way that we can build arrows for the Ravens is to change out the string.
Not really. If they shoot the original Raven string for about 30-40 shots, the C-Knot will fit perfectly.
Yeah, but what if in that 30, 40 shots they want to pull out that bolt and not
They
shoot
should
it?
not have any issue. The only issue that there are too much wax on it, the C nut will fit very tight inside the S nut, unless the arrow shaft is no good. All the arrow shafts are about 300,000. I know Black Eagle specs are good. I know Gold Tip specs are good. You should not have any issues, unless and not to mention if they install Firenock, the residual of the super glue will build a little bit on the nut, so it should be tighter than tight. So far, I have not had any issue for all the customer that's building Raven. You guys are not the only one who building Raven arrows. So, in other words, if you are concerned, remember the 135 is still here. You can use that on any of the Raven specs.
That one seemed loose.
It
Of
did.
course,
The
because
U-
it's 128 to 127,000.
The U seemed loose. The C,
It's a little bit
seemed
tighter than
tight.
usual. But remember, of this design,
yeah.
you had to pass the shear.
Well, it wasn't so much the snap on. It was when you went to pull the bolt off.
Right, when you put a one, you know, when you reach a circle, tick, the thing just come off. Because you need to pass the shear.
Uh huh.
If the string is 130,000, just for the heck of it, say 130,000, then of course it's going to expand this. It's going to squeeze tight on this knot.
Because when we were building them with C's and the guys had the bows cocked, that diameter is bigger, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to pull the bolt off before they were uncocking it, and the bolt was the knock was sticking on. So then they had to reach up in there, you know, and everybody's nervous about that.
No, you do not do that.
And try and pull.
In
Granted,
most cases,
you would uncock it, but
right,
yeah, it just guys just freak out when their knot comes off.
right. I say under that condition, you notice that it's 99.9% of because they have the older string they got. Because remember, the older string is 132 to 134,000.
On like a 9 or a 15.
Yes.
So
They
like
set it
a
up.
new R20 sniper
Yes,
is
they're all
going to be
because they-
125.
Remember, they changed it now from orange to white. Like white
Correct.
to orange.
Right,
The
right.
white is fit 135 and the orange is fit 127. So
Which
that
we-
is where the difference is.
I can't say is that we've tried it on.
All right?
Yeah, we tried it on a
Black Eagle.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then we just call the first section in. Let's get something to drink.